Buona Sera Louisiana, buona sera. Come bello stare a Napoli e sognare, mentre il cielo sembra dire buonasera, la vecchia luna che sul Mediterraneo appare. Quante volte ho sussurrato amore ti amo. Buona Sera Louisiana, kiss me goodnight. Buona Sera Louisiana, kiss me goodnight. Buona Sera, Charles Marcella.
Buona Sera Lena. It's so good to see you during the holidays. This is wonderful and Buon Natale.
Buon Natale, Charles. Great to see you too. And we are having our very first Charles Italian Christmas special.
This is going to be great, and it's going to wrap up with you. So, I mean, I love the fact that I've got a lot of history here to talk about Sicilian stuff, Christmas, Italians in America, and then you got a great concert we're going to put on at the end. So it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, Charles, you're the perfect guy to talk about Italian traditions and historic things for Christmas.
And what I love, Lena, is I do these stories. I find something that I never thought about before or nobody knew, and then you find it and you're just so excited to hear it. So yes, it's great. It's really neat some of the new stuff we have to talk about, the Sicilian influence in Christmas. So it's gonna be great.
Awesome, Charles.
Okay. So Lena, when do you start put up your Christmas tree and put up your lights?
Actually, Charles, I have a Christmas tree up all year round.
Okay, I do too, actually.
Do you
That's
really
funny that we
see?
both do.
How did I know that about us? We are those people, right? We want Christmas joy all year round.
Absolutely, we do. And mine is the ornaments from my travels. I have an ornament from almost every city I've been to, Route 66, Sicily, whatever. It's there, you know?
I love that. I have like a bunch of Mardi Gras stuff on mine and various Mr. Bingles, and I've got some Easter stuff, Valentine stuff, St. Joseph's Day stuff.
I have loved this last few years working with you and just the things that we've done. And then recently this year, I got to go back to the Vatican and actually we had a great meeting. We got a picture taken with the Pope. And then I went traveling through Italy, learning a few more stories about our history. And it's just been the best. So I'm really having a great time in life right now, learning a lot of the traditions and meeting so many great Italians from around the country, around the world. And it's been the best. I mean, it's really been a great part of life. And I want to encourage all of our Italians that they have a thing now called roots tourism, where you go back to Sicily to the villages that your family's from. So it's really impactful when you go back and actually walk the streets that your great grandparents walked.
Boy, that's incredible, Charles. And I'm excited for you to share this stuff with us today.
Are you ready to get rolling?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, Charles. So let's get to your first segment today.
All right. So, Lena, Christmas lights and Christmas lights are big. We all know that there's lights is a very much important part of Christmas. And it comes back to St. Lucy, and she's the patron saint of Syracuse, Sicily. And I did go there. The town is gorgeous. And Artesia is a place where people need to see if you go back. It is a beautiful square. The food, eating out at night, all the town square is just beautiful. It's right on the coast. Those two cities are amazing. And that is when people traditionally put up their lights, is on the feast of St. Lucy, December 13th. All right. She's also the patron saint of vision. And she had a tragic ending to her life, became a martyr. She's one of the 8 martyrs listed in the prayers. So now, as it turns out, she had lost her vision because of what happened to her. But when they were burying her, her eyes mysteriously appeared back. And apparently they were beautiful eyes. So we think of St. Lucy for sight. And also, so if somebody's having vision problems, they pray to St. Lucy. Here in New Orleans, we have 2 St. Lucy organizations, one in New Orleans and one now in Covington. And Father Damian Zablowski, who you met when we were doing the blessing of the graves for All Saints Day, he has just done a great job. Actually, the Archbishop went over to Covington and did the Mass of St. Lucy with him. So we were so blessed to have both of them together. And it was a wonderful feast day. We're great to have these organizations. So historically, it's a wonderful, very strong organization, the St. Lucy Society in New Orleans of Sicilians from Syracuse.
So how can people find out about when this celebration is occurring?
Father Damian's church is Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And in New Orleans, it's at St. John's. So you could look up either one of those two. And we have the St. Lucie Society, which you could check as well, or call us at the Federation, and we would check and give you the answer to where the masses are going to be to go to the Feast of St. Lucie Mass in either New Orleans or in Covington.
Well, that's great, Charles. That's something we all just learned. At least I just learned this. I didn't know anything about this. That's wonderful. So listen, my background that I have today is the Vatican at Christmas. And why don't you tell us all about what goes on at the Vatican?
Absolutely, Lena. And that is a perfect background for our show because everybody knows midnight mass at the Vatican, the Pope, and that's where so many thousands of people go to St. Peter's Square to have mass. One of the things that I really appreciate was in 2015, Pope Francis decided to honor endangered species at the Vatican. I mean, it was an amazing light show that they did of animals that are endangered, elephants and rhinos for an hour. They played
Wow.
music and birds, everything that we need to take better care of the planet. And actually, it was St. Francis of Assisi, who was really the patron saint of animals and World Animal Day, who created the nativity scene in 1223. So for the Vatican and the Pope to say, hey, we're going to pay more attention to animals and let people realize that some of these are going to be gone if we don't do something, it was amazing. And it really actually was a great result. At the time, elephants were being killed at 96 a day on the average. Now down to 30 a day. So we did
Wow.
create that awareness, and we're seeing people pay more attention to endangered species.
That's
And
amazing, Charles. I didn't know that either.
so there's a lot of great stuff. And in New Orleans, we have Gallier Hall. So like if somebody sees Gallier Hall, and I've seen pelicans on the walls of Gallier Hall and animals at Gallier Hall when they do the light show in New Orleans, but also Pope Francis, he actually set the bar for light show, what he did in 2015.
So that's really interesting, Charles. And let's talk about the nativity scenes. Tell us about what you know about them.
Okay, so Lena, I actually went to the Knights of Columbus headquarters in New Haven, Connecticut. There I am in New Haven going through the Knights of Columbus Museum, and I see all of this dedication to nativity scenes. And it was so inspiring and really opened my eyes to what the nativity scenes are. And we take that for granted today because they're all over the place. I mean, every home has one. You see them every church so much, inflatables, everything. But the reality was when St. Francis started it, it was only done at churches, and it was actually living people. It was real actors. So that's in 1200s. By the 1600s, actually the King of Sicily gets the idea to start having figures made. So for 400 years, it was really limited to churches. Then the King Charles III of Spain, who's actually the ruler of Sicily and also of Naples, starts to make it bigger. And these people in Naples make these phenomenal nativity scenes. Around the world right now, though, the display shows that people portrayed the Holy Family and Jesus as to who they were. So when I went through this museum, there was several countries in Africa, Kenya, the Maasai tribe, South Africa, and a few other countries. And their nativity scenes reflected the Holy Family as being African American, and the animals as not being what we see in America, but there was giraffes, there was hippopotamuses, elephants, donkeys. There was all the animals that you would see in Africa were in the nativity scenes that were on display at the Knights exhibit. And then as I ran around the world, I saw like the Israel display was made out of olive wood. So each one was so specific. And in the Philippines, and you see New Guinea, they're using seashells to make the figures. And they did a great job with them. They have South America, Peru. And in North America, they have Indian tribes, the Pueblo Indians, and they have a goat and a donkey and a sheep and a cow for theirs. In Mexico, they have a wagon that's pulling it with a donkey, the Holy Family, as they're going through. So all our cultures around the world actually make the nativity scene and the Holy Family to be representative of them. And that
I love that, Charles. That's just beautiful. It really just gives you that feeling of the true spirit of Christmas being celebrated by every culture all around the world. I love that, Charles.
The centerpiece of the room is this huge nativity scene that's laid out. It's probably 15 feet across by 10 feet deep, over 200 figures. And the idea became in the 16th century to tell the story if Jesus arrived then in that period of time. So you have the Holy Family surrounded by taverns and merchants and everything else going on as if Jesus had been born in Naples in like 1630. And And it's really amazing. And that is coming back. In Naples, they still have artists that make these elaborate nativity scenes. And the silk that they use is actually so precious. They only put the figures out at Christmas time. They don't want the light on them to fade them over the years. That the
Wow.
scenes, the figure they have there, the display in New Haven was amazing. There've been other displays in Chicago and all, but if you can see one of these displays, it's worth finding where there are and going to check out one. Amazing.
That's awesome, Charles. So, Charles, we talked about my background is the Vatican at Christmas. What's in your background? What you got going there?
Well, Lena, your background is the most famous background for Christmas. Mine's got to be the second most famous. This is the bridge at Bedford Falls that George Bailey goes to. And everybody has seen this bridge. It must run every night in December, the movie. It's one of the best movies of all time for Christmas. So,
Oh my God, Charles. Charles,
yes.
I always say that you remind me of Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life. So the fact that you're there by the bridge is perfect right now because you're Clarence to me.
Appreciate that, Lena. I think that is a great compliment. And oddly enough, my dad is Joseph. So Clarence yelled for Joseph when he was, in trouble. I used to yell Joseph when I was in trouble.
See, there you go. You're Clarence. It's official.
I never looked at myself that way, and I'll start though to think of that I'm the Clarence of New Orleans.
There you go. Of Italian history in New Orleans. So what's the Italian part about It's a Wonderful Life?
Well, the movie, Lena, is directed by Frank Capra. And not only is it Italian, but he's from Bissaquina, Sicily. And we actually have a very large group in New Orleans. There's a mausoleum from Bissaquina. And on my mother's side, she has an ancestor from Bissaquina. So that's south of Palermo. He comes over when he's 6 years old. He may have come through New Orleans. I haven't been able to find that out yet. He ends up in Los Angeles with his family. So at 6 years old, his father and mother bring him to America, and they end up in LA. And he gets a college degree. He serves in World War I. His dad dies in World War I. And then he kind of has a couple of rough years trying to find himself. And then he starts making movies. And he's one of the pioneers when we went from silence to talkies. And he just starts working his way up the ladder. He's with Columbia Pictures, which is great because of Christopher Columbus. So an Italian should be with Columbia Pictures. Okay. And then this comes along, but there is so much undertone about the Italians in it that I started really delving into what he was trying to say, because he's telling the Italian dream story. You start off, they first introduced the Martini family in the movie. And Mr. Martini actually takes his goat when they move from the Potter Apartments to Baileyville. They actually have a goat with them, and copper means goat in Italian. So maybe you put that goat in the movie just to have a little bit of fun, to let people know his name. And they move, and then George Bailey and Mary give them bread, they give them wine, and they give them spices as they move into their new house. Then very next scene, and I only picked this up a year ago, Mr. Potter realizes that George Bailey's might start to give him financial trouble and take his tenants into these houses. So he calls George Bailey into his office, and he's offering him a job. And as he's offering the job, he says, "Look at what you're doing now. You're nothing but a nursemaid to those garlic eaters." When I heard that, I didn't believe I'd heard those words. I'd never heard the phrase garlic eater. So I had to Google that. And I realized that that's what Italians were called during that time where we still were not accepted. And your dad did tremendous work during that period as well. It's 1946 when this movie comes out.
Yeah.
So as the movie goes on, we know that Martini opens his own restaurant, and that's where George goes to have a drink when he's troubled, and that's where Clarence appears, or comes into his life. And there's another scene in the restaurant there where it's as if Martini never got to have his restaurant. So he goes to Martini's, and then he goes to the bridge, which is right behind me, and this is where Clarence shows up. But in the end of the movie, when George realizes he's had a wonderful life and he contributed to so many other people, he goes back home, and Mr. Martini shows up with a basket full of money, and he goes, "I break out a jukebox," and he dumps all the money on the table to help George get out of his jam. Well, chances are that there was probably Louis Prima money from the jukebox in there. Frank Sinatra, Guy Lombardo. We had a list of singers going on at the time that probably were on that jukebox. So he dumps the money, and the next scene you see is they're playing Old Lang Syne, which was made famous by Guy Lombardo, and the guy's got an accordion. So there's another undertone of the Italian contribution. So the movie really is saying that the Italian dream was being achieved, and it's an inspiration to Italians. It's also very religious, and Frank Capra was a very religious man. He really felt that our salvation was based on doing good to others, and it being spiritual. So he puts that in the movie, does a great job. He went on to win 6 Oscars as a person, and he just had a phenomenal career in the movies. So I thought, what a great way to end my segment here today, by showing that bridge that was made famous by Frank Capra in the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
I love it, Charles. And now we can all of us Italians can watch that in a whole new way and have some pasta when it comes on this time. Charles, you talked about, all the animals at Christmas, and we have, in Italian traditions, we have Dominic the donkey, which I didn't grow up with, but that's a big thing.
It's amazing. And I was in the Northeast a lot this year, and I'm walking around, and I meet this family, Italians in Philadelphia, and they start into this Dominic the donkey thing. And I'm thinking, I didn't hear it either growing up. And I realized they did so many Italians from the Northeast, because it was the donkey's out of Brooklyn. And in the song, he talks about Brooklyn. But apparently the belief in Italy is that reindeers can't fly. Okay, so that a reindeer, and that they also could not do the hills. So Santa needed a donkey to get up the hills in Italy.
So Dominic's like Rudolph.
Exactly. He saves the day. Reindeers can't fly.
That's great, Charles. I love it. That's a great.
Yes, it's amazing. And then the song came out in 1950, and in Britain they brought it back in 2011, and it rose up to number 2.
Wow.
And they were trying to get it to number 1. It would have been the record for the longest time a song came out before it got to number 1. But it only made it to number 2.
Well, speaking of music, Charles, Christmas music is such a huge part of the holiday season, and we all like to listen to the old stuff. And my dad recorded some Christmas songs, and they're pretty funny. And I got to perform them at the St. Louis Cathedral for Christmas back in 2015. So I thought I would share some of those, few of those little clips from that wonderful concert at the cathedral and some of my dad's Christmas songs.
Perfectly. And I've been looking forward to hearing them. And the fact that you did them in the cathedral, what a beautiful place.
It was beautiful.
With his great big smile, and he'll fight even the kiddies Santa Claus. Thank you very much.
Well, Charles, that was a really wonderful holiday special.
Lena, it was. I mean, I just love the fact the way that you sang in the cathedral. It was just, and bringing your dad's music out, and you do such a great job of being you, but also honoring your dad and his songs because they were so creative. But I
Thank you,
love the
Charles.
mixture you have, and you
Thank
have Little
you.
Palermo out right now, so you've done your own Italian stories as well. So it's been great.
Thank you, Charles. It was a dream come true to sing in the cathedral. I've always wanted to do that since I was little.
I'm glad it happened. It's a beautiful thing for New Orleans. I'm glad we got to show a few of those today.
Me too. Well, we want to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Buon Natale and Happy New Year, everybody.
Buon Natale, Lena, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Have great holidays. Take care.
Buona Sera.
Bye-bye. Buona Sera.
Buona Sera Louisiana, kiss me goodnight. Buona Sera Louisiana, kiss me goodnight.
Our news spent 5 years touring Louisiana. We've interviewed countless numbers of people. The people that make it happen, that put on Mardi Gras, the chefs, the artists, the backbone of Louisiana. We've taken those interviews and made a show called Celebrating Culture. But we've also taken those interviews and put them in a tour app, New Orleans Insider Tours. To download the apps, all you have to do is point your phone at the flow code in the camera mode. Once you have the app downloaded, you'll have access to putting together the best game plan to experience in Louisiana. You can start with Little Palermo, which is 50 points of interest on the Italian community, and then go to Statue Stories and Spirits, over 150 stops in the French Quarter and CBD. Where to dine in New Orleans, what rooftop bars give you the best view, how to see the Gulf of Mexico from the coastal towns, driving up to the Bonnie and Clyde Museum near Shreveport, or up to Vicksburg. New Orleans and Louisiana are must-see for everyone, and there's so much to see. So we hope you enjoy it, and as we say here, let the good times roll.